Imagine this. 300 knights, heavily outnumbered, facing 40,000 soldiers. On paper, it sounds like a suicide mission. Yet, against all odds, they not only survive but emerge victorious. Sounds insane, right? Stick around because today, we're diving into one of the most incredible military victories in history, a battle so remarkable it has become the stuff of legend. In this video, we will explore how a small, determined group of knights, with limited resources and no real chance of winning, managed to defeat an overwhelming enemy force. We'll uncover the strategies, the mindset, and the sheer grit that turned what seemed like certain defeat into a historic triumph. By the end, you'll understand why this battle is considered one of the most insane military victories ever. Trust me, this is a story you don't want to miss. Before we dive into the specifics of the battle, it's important to understand the larger historical context. The year is 1187, and the Crusader states in the Levant have been in existence for almost a century. The Crusaders had come to the Holy Land in the late 11th century, after the First Crusade, to claim Jerusalem as a Christian city, and they had established several kingdoms, most notably the Kingdom of Jerusalem. This kingdom, a fragile and often divided entity, was surrounded by much larger, well-organized, and wealthy Muslim empires. By the late 12th century, the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem was losing its grip on the Holy Land. The Muslim forces, led by the legendary general Salah ad-Din Saladin, had been steadily regaining territory from the Crusaders. Saladin, a man of extraordinary military genius and vision, had united the Muslim world after the disunity of the previous years and was determined to take back Jerusalem, which had been under Christian control for nearly 100 years. In 1187, Saladin launched a military campaign aimed at reclaiming Jerusalem. The Crusader forces in the area, led by King Guy of Lusignan, were determined to defend the city, but their situation was becoming increasingly dire. At the heart of this battle was the small but highly skilled force of Crusader knights, about 300 knights who were the core of the Christian military defense. These knights weren't just warriors. They were symbols of the Crusader kingdom itself. They were part of a long tradition of knightly orders, each with its own code of conduct and role in the Crusader army. They were often the first line of defense in battle and were expected to lead from the front. But in the face of Saladin's overwhelming forces, the knights' chances seemed slim to none. The Crusaders' military force, when combined with the additional infantry, numbered about 1,200 men, but this was nothing compared to the overwhelming Muslim army Saladin commanded. Saladin's forces were estimated to be anywhere between 20,000 and 40,000 strong, a vastly superior number in both experience and resources. One of the critical problems the Crusader army faced was not just their inferior numbers, but the environment they had to contend with. The battle took place in the scorching heat of the summer in the dry, arid landscape near the Horns of Atene, a series of hills located near modern-day Tiberias in Israel. It was a brutal setting for battle, and the Crusaders were already suffering from the effects of dehydration and exhaustion by the time they engaged in the fight. Saladin knew the Crusaders had been on the march for days, with little water and even fewer supplies. His army, in contrast, had the advantage of fresh water sources and could fight at full strength. The strategic advantage was clear. While the Crusaders were in poor shape, Saladin's forces were well-prepared, well-rested, and ready to fight. The Crusader forces had made a critical error by engaging in battle before properly positioning their forces and preparing for the harsh desert conditions. The leadership of the Crusaders, especially King Guy, was under intense pressure, but they had no choice but to fight, as Saladin was quickly advancing on Jerusalem. The Crusaders, though outnumbered and exhausted, took their position on the Horns of Atene. The Crusader knights, however, remained resolute, fully aware that this could be their final stand. The Crusader leadership decided to take a defensive position, hoping to hold their ground until reinforcements could arrive or until they could make a tactical move to turn the battle in their favor. Saladin's army approached, and the battle began with a heavy assault from the Muslim forces. The Crusaders were quickly surrounded, with no escape route. The terrain worked against them, as they had been positioned on elevated ground, but the surrounding areas were wide open for Saladin's cavalry to attack from all directions. The Muslim forces began a series of hit-and-run attacks, isolating the Crusaders from one another and cutting off their supply lines. Saladin's cavalry, which was much larger, used its superior numbers to great effect, and the knights were soon engaged in desperate combat. The battle was brutal, with men fighting to the death, and the heat was unbearable. Saladin's forces systematically wore down the Crusader lines, using their mobility to encircle them. It seemed like the end was near for the Crusaders. However, there was something remarkable about the knights that would make the difference in this battle. They did not give up. Despite being surrounded, they fought with incredible bravery. Each knight fought with the conviction that they would either win the battle or die trying. It wasn't just about defeating the enemy. It was about defending the honor of their kingdom, their faith, and their people. As the battle raged on, a critical moment occurred. The Crusaders were nearly out of water, and Saladin had taken control of all the surrounding water sources. The knights were desperate for hydration, but their situation became increasingly hopeless. Yet, despite being on the verge of collapse, they refused to surrender. In a bold move, Saladin's forces began to use their superior numbers to break through the Crusader lines. They targeted the command structure, hoping to kill or capture the leaders of the Crusaders. This strategy worked, and many of the Crusader knights, including King Guy, were captured. But the remaining knights fought on, determined not to let their king's capture be in vain. As the hours turned into a full day of intense combat, the tide of the battle shifted. The Crusaders, who had fought so valiantly, were slowly being overwhelmed. Despite their exceptional training and the knightly codes of conduct that guided their every move, the numbers of Saladin's army were simply too much to overcome. At the end of the battle, the Crusader forces were decimated. The remaining knights and soldiers had either been killed, captured, or forced to retreat. King Guy and his high-ranking officers were captured by Saladin's forces, marking the end of Crusader control in the region. But what makes this battle so remarkable is the way the knights fought. Their courage, discipline, and commitment to their cause are the stuff of legend. Despite their seemingly impossible odds, they held their ground and fought to the end, refusing to give up even when defeat was inevitable. This extraordinary display of bravery has been immortalized in history as one of the most insane military victories, albeit in defeat, ever recorded. The Battle of the Horns of Atene wasn't just about the numbers or the outcome. It was about the indomitable spirit of the Crusader knights who, despite everything, fought for survival. The knights faced a near-impossible situation and fought like they had nothing to lose. While they were ultimately defeated, their bravery and heroism became a symbol of resistance, something that continues to resonate with us today. What made this battle one of the most insane military victories wasn't the outcome. It was the story of the knights who refused to surrender, who fought with every ounce of their strength and valor. Their actions became an inspiration for future generations, reminding us that sometimes the odds may seem insurmountable, but it's our resolve that defines us. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible historical tales. And leave a comment below with your thoughts on this battle. What do you think made the Crusader Knights stand so legendary? Was it their sheer determination, the strategies they employed, or the leadership of their commanders? We'd love to hear your opinions.